Could you quickly just, for our readers, introduce yourself quickly and tell us what exactly you are doing on the team and how long you have been at Blizzard at all?
Sure. My name is Scott Mercer. I'm lead encounter designer for World of Warcraft. I lead a team of game designers who are responsible for all the dungeon and raid content within World of Warcraft, and I've been working at Blizzard for over 13 years.
My name is Patrick Magruder. I'm the lead of the gameplay systems team. I oversee a team of 7 other engineers. We're responsible for basically everything that is the game to make it work. Everything from combat systems to phasing to the guild system. We basically make it happen under the hood.
Oh, that's good.
I've been at Blizzard for 5 years.
When you start working on an encounter, right?
Mm-hmm.
How does that work exactly? I mean, what parties are involved?
Well, initially, when we're talking about, it sort of starts at, well, what's the expansion about? And that's something where our lead world designer, the content designer, Chris Metzen, they're all involved in trying to figure out, well, what's this expansion about? And we knew that, for Cataclysm, we wanted this expansion to be about Deathwing rising up and shattering the world, and then the consequences of that. So then we got together with artists to figure out, like, well, what are the new dungeons going to be? And for that, we had to figure out, well, what are the new outdoor zones going to be? It's a very long process. Eventually, it gets to the encounter team, which is where I and my team come in, and then at that point, we figure out, hey, what's the right bosses for this particular dungeon? We have this dungeon. Let's say it's Blackwing Descent, which is one of the new raid dungeons in Cataclysm, and that's an outgrowth of Blackwing Descent. It's in the same mountain. So we knew we wanted to do a lot of similar, but not, similar bosses to what you might see in Blackwing Descent. We wanted a lot of draconic things. We knew that the final boss would be Nefarian. So that's the kind of decisions, like, what are the bosses? And then when it comes time to actually design a boss, we sit around a table and just start, what's going to make this boss cool? What's going to make this awesome? What's going to make this boss unique, that when players fight this boss, they go like, wow, that was cool, we haven't seen that before. What's the one thing that's really going to make this particular encounter exciting and epic? And once we have that, we really sort of sit down and just flesh it out with, like, okay, well, how are we going to make the tank's job interesting? Or what are we going to do for the DPS? If we're going to have fire on the ground, and we have fire on the ground a lot, how are we going to make that fire interesting? So that's sort of what we really go through. And then after we get that implemented, working with Patrick's team a lot.
We advise a lot.
Yes. No, don't do that. No, we have to do that. It'd be awesome.
Can we do this instead?
Yes. After that, we test it. We put it on the beta, take feedback, make adjustments to it, and it goes live. And even after then, the adjustments don't stop.
Yeah. What I just meant is that. So it's basically game design and engineers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And artists.
You introduced the phasing mechanic, right?
Yes.
Using it a lot more.
It's being used a whole lot more, and ideally, players won't really notice the phasing. It'll feel natural as they're moving through the story. The world around them changes, and everything just feels right. And it's like, well, that NPC has been killed, and he's no longer there. Well, the shore got flooded and the shorelines changed, because we can actually change terrain now with Cataclysms, one of the new features we've added to phasing. Sure, every now and then the players may notice, like, oh, I'm in a different phase from you, what's going on? We've also added that so the UI, you can see it. It'll tell you you're in a different phase from this person. So hopefully it'll be a little more clear what's going on. The Death Knight starting area is a really good example of the original kind of phasing, where the NPCs are completely different, but it's the same, basic terrain. Buildings, by the way, can be changed, of course. So we can change a lot of things, and now with the new Cataclysm phasing, they can pretty much go whole hog and really go nuts.
We can change shorelines. We can add volcanoes.
When you start creating an encounter, do you have a general idea about what will make the fight unique? I mean, if you start, and do you plan on specifics and what it will take to actually beat the encounter?
Sometimes it depends upon the brief something. What exactly that does.
It's going to tail whip a lot of people.
Yes,
it's going to do something with the wings.
Yes, wings. those are the kinds of some things we know about them because they're key to what that creature is. A lot of times, no, we go into meetings and we're like, if anyone has an awesome idea, put it on the table. You know, we talk about it, go through, and sometimes, usually, actually, the first idea isn't what we go with. It's an idea that's sprouted out of the first idea that we might implement instead. So it's a very organic process and a lot of fun.
So there's 2 company core values that we have. We have 12 total, but 2 of them really revolve around what you're discussing. Every voice matters and gameplay first. And those are the 2 things that are absolutely evident in what Scott's talking about here, where they get the team, they get their team together sometimes with an engineer or 2 or not, or we're just talking in the hallway sometimes, and we're just bouncing ideas around. The whole every voice matters, but gameplay first. What matters is it fun? Is the gameplay good? Does it feel good to the players? Is it epic? Is it awesome? Is it Blizzard?
When we really talk about a boss, we talk about it, of course, by itself, but then there's also the boss as part of the larger raid zone, right? So we try to provide a variety of different challenges for each class. Maybe not within just one encounter, because it can be difficult to provide unique mechanics for every single class within one encounter, but we try within the entire zone to do so. So in some fights we know, hey, there's going to be something to dispel here, but maybe in this other fight we don't. Maybe in this fight we require multiple tanks, in this other fight we don't. We try to mix and match to provide a variety of challenges, because that's what makes doing these raid zones sort of interesting, is that everyone has an opportunity to shine. Everyone has a chance to be the hero, to feel like they were the ones that made this raid successful.
How do you make sure that people beat the encounter if they play well? I mean, it's just, do you have figures about how much damage has to be done, how much healing has to be done?
Yeah, the one thing that we sort of work with is we have a general idea about how much damage a player can do over time. So we have a decent sense of, like, this boss has this many hit points, so the fight's going to take roughly about this amount of time. So, and a lot of times it ends up just being like look and feel. That's where, like, a lot of the testing comes in. We test with our internal testing staff. We test. The encounter team is large enough. We actually do a tremendous amount of testing of the 5-player dungeons just amongst the team. We went through every single dungeon multiple times in heroics, and we do that testing, and then we watch. We get feedback from it. Players are very willing to provide feedback of, it's like, I couldn't heal that. What was up? That felt wrong, and we just make adjustments to it during the testing process. And so we use some figures, like how hard can we hit a tank and kill them in 2 shots or kill them in 3? Yeah, and that's just sort of the art of balance and game design.
If we now talk about the end boss of a dungeon, how long does it usually take to create an encounter and test it and finalize it? Let's say Morrowind.
It varies a lot. Some bosses might take 2 weeks. Some bosses, implementation goes for something crazy like the Lich King, 2 months.
Internal testing? I mean,
and then there's several weeks of internal testing, more weeks, and then PTR and so forth. So it's quite a long, involved process, and we're making adjustments. And
if you look back at the encounter design process and all the encounters that have been done, what has generally changed? What's the most important thing that has changed, and what was the greatest challenge of all the encounters you've done?
The greatest challenge of all the encounters we've done. There's certainly been technical challenges with some of the encounters.
The variant fight had all the deal with the lava.
Yeah, Kologarn was very technically challenging because he was really the first boss we've had where he's leaning over a ledge and you don't even really see his legs. And what are you attacking? And there's technical challenges, but for game design, whenever we try to make something really difficult, something with a huge number of phases, like the Lich King encounter, it's multiple phases. We need to make every single phase interesting and challenging and difficult, and that's a pretty hard challenge for us. The heroics especially. Heroics, sometimes we add phases or completely change phases around. You might see things in heroic that you don't see in normal. So I'd say Lich King was probably like one of the more difficult. Like all of them quirks, when it comes time.
When it changed from 40 people to 25 people, I mean, did that change the process at all? Because for us as players, it changed a lot.
Right. As far as actually creating the encounters, it didn't change drastically. I mean, we knew that, you know, obviously you're not going to be able to do as much damage. You won't have as many tanks potentially, but
no class stacking.
yes, well, not yeah. You could still potentially class stack in 25. You could do it in both, but the class team has done such a great job of making that not being something that, you know, players generally want to do. We have to really do something kind of odd on the encounter side to encourage that. And whenever we see that, we're like, oh, let's change something, because that's not something we want to encourage. So.
But it didn't change that much.
It didn't really change that much. The difference between 20, because with 25 or 40, we can generally say you're going to bring a paladin. Yes, you'll bring a paladin, but you're going to bring a warlock, a druid. You'll bring one of every class, and probably like one of every single talent spec within that class. In a 10-player raid, that's not, you know, we can't rely on that. So again, we've worked with the class team, and, you know, Cataclysm, we've changed all the talent trees tremendously. Players have seen that since the Shattering, the new talent changes, a lot of different changes as far as who can dispel what, which classes, trying to make it so where we've considered as many different buffs. So we try to make it, we want to make both 10 and 25 player rating difficult, and it's a challenge, but we've undergone a lot of changes to make that happen.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.